Hey guys, what's going on? This is the conservative speaking, and I wanted to talk about a new rule handed down by OSHA, suspending vaccine mandates upon private businesses with 100 employees or more. This is a big win for businesses that never really had any intentions of mandating vaccines upon their employees. And the simple fact that the federal government can even think about issuing a mandate to businesses to enforce vaccines upon their employees is going it's really more of an overreach by the federal government. Not to mention, it's unconstitutional. So an order was so I'm sorry. So this came after a U.S. appeals judge struck the order down and stated that the Biden administration could not enforce businesses to enforce vaccine mandates upon their employees. So this order came down by a federal U.S. appeals judge. And I would have to say that, honestly, I think as far as this decision coming down, the one thing that I could say about this decision coming down is that thank goodness that we still have people who believe in the freedom of individuals and the rights of individuals. Thank goodness that we still have people that are still fighting for people's rights in this country. Initially, they were going to put a halt to the mandate by November 6th, pending litigation, because there are 27 states that are suing the Biden administration over this. But now that this law, now that this ruling has come down. Now it's official that the federal government cannot enforce private businesses to enforce their employees to take a vaccine. We all knew that. It's common sense. Now, granted, it's still a private business. If the private business requires you to take the vaccine, they have every right to do that because they're a private business. They can run their business however they want to. But for the simple fact that the federal government believes that they can just overreach and just enforce private businesses to make their employees either take the vaccine or go through weekly testing along with wearing a mask is definitely an overreach on the federal government. And this is one of the reasons why the people have no type of trust in the federal government, because when you give an inch, they take a mile. And when you give the federal government leeway to govern the people, they can practically turn that into an overall tyranny and make people do things that they don't necessarily want to do. All right? That in its own is fascism. Now, I'm sure there are people that would want to take the vaccine, but there are a lot of people who do not plan on taking the vaccine, and they feel coerced into doing it or losing their job. And some people just wind up complying because under the threat of them being unemployed. All right? That's not American. In America, we have the right to choose. So this is a great win, but I happened to come across a clip that would explain this ruling in greater detail. So without further ado, I want you guys to listen to the clip, and I may interject at certain times, but for the most part, I want you guys to listen to listen to this clip or listen to this information that was provided by the Epic Times that speaks about this ruling.
Announced that they have suspended their implementation of the national vaccine mandate, meaning that OSHA will neither enforce nor implement the vaccine mandate for private businesses. This, by the way, came after a court order from the Fifth Circuit essentially forced them to do so. Meanwhile, over at a university in Virginia, an assistant professor of criminology has just come out and said that society should remove the stigma surrounding pedophiles, and instead, we should be referring to them as MAPs, or minor attracted people. Let's go through it all together.
I'm going to fast forward
This is your daily
this.
Facts Matter update, and I'm your host, Roman, from the Epic Times. And now let's begin today's discussion by talking about the vaccine mandate, or more specifically, about how OSHA has just suspended their enforcement of the vaccine mandate for private businesses. Now, to give you a bit of background on this particular case, exactly 2 weeks ago, at the behest of Joe Biden, OSHA, which is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, they officially announced a new sweeping vaccine mandate for private businesses. And according to the new rules that they released, any business here in America with over 100 employees, they would be forced to either mandate vaccinations among their employees or to require that their employees submit a weekly COVID test at their own expense. And any business that refused to comply with this mandate, they would be slapped with heavy fines going all the way up to $14,000 per violation. Now, as we already discussed in a previous
It really puts the employer and the employee at a lose-lose situation. You know what I mean? In a way, the federal government wants to make it look as if the employee has a choice and that they have leeway, but honestly, it's a lose-lose situation. Period. Because if the employee doesn't comply, then the employer gets fined $14,000. Do you think any employer, regardless of even the employee with the greatest track record, do you think any employee is willing to take a $14,000 fine for an employee? I don't think so.
Episode, as a response to this new set of rules, lawsuits began to spring up across the entire nation, and it was one of these lawsuits, specifically one that came out of Texas, that had an appeals court, specifically the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, issue a temporary injunction against the enforcement of this mandate. To be more specific, about a week ago, a federal court of appeals, this specific court, they issued a temporary block of the mandate because according to the judges in that courtroom, there may in fact be constitutional issues with the Biden administration's vaccine requirement. Here's specifically what the judges said in that court order. Because the petitions give cause to believe there are grave statutory and constitutional issues with the mandate is hereby stayed pending further action by this court. Now again, that was about a week ago, and that
I mean, what was Joe Biden thinking? Like, did Joe Biden really think that he could throw his authority around? And keep in mind, about a year ago, it was the same Joe Biden that stated that he would not enforce vaccine mandates. All right? This is the same guy that stated that he would not enforce vaccine mandates. And what does he do? Like every other politician does? All right? He goes against his word and does the very thing that he claimed he wouldn't do. Politics 101.
particular restraining order was only temporary. However, the plaintiffs in the case, including the state of Texas, the state of Utah, as well as all the other litigants, they were requesting a permanent injunction. And so what the two judges in that case did was that they gave the Biden administration an opportunity to respond to the court, to respond to these plaintiffs, and to challenge the order. The Biden administration, they did just that. They submitted a challenge, but the court rejected it. In fact, the court issued this new 22-page, fairly blistering opinion where they called the vaccine mandate, as it was written, fatally flawed. Here's specifically what the court wrote in their opinion. Quote, rather than a delicately handled scalpel, the mandate is a one-size-fits-all sledgehammer that makes hardly any attempt to account for differences in workplaces and workers that have more than a little bearing on workers' varying degrees of susceptibility to the supposedly quote-unquote grave danger the mandate purports to address. Then, further down in this same opinion, the court ordered that the vaccine mandate cannot be enforced in any way. Here's what they wrote, quote, OSHA's mandate is staggeringly overboard and ordered it to take no steps to implement or enforce the mandate until further court order. And so this order from this court, it goes well beyond a temporary halt, and instead it is a permanent injunction. It says that OSHA cannot take any steps to either implement or enforce the vaccine mandate until the court says otherwise.
So in other words, they're just stating that they're not going to enforce a draconian, totalitarianistic, fascist order, because in the end, the government is definitely overreaching, and what the federal government fails to realize is that the government works for the people. All right, it's not the other way around. The people don't work for the government works for the people.
And several days ago, the Labor Department, they came out and they announced that they will be complying with this decision. Here's specifically what the Labor Department said as a part of their statement. The court ordered that OSHA take no steps to implement or enforce the emergency temporary standard until further court order. While OSHA remains confident in its authority to protect workers in emergencies, OSHA has suspended activities related to the implementation and enforcement of the emergency temporary standard pending future developments in the litigation. Meaning, in non-legal language, that the vaccine mandate on private businesses is effectively suspended. Now, we here at the Epoch Times, we did reach out to the Biden administration for comment, but we have yet to hear back. Regardless, though, moving forward, this lawsuit is about to get very big, much bigger than it was previously. That's because besides this lawsuit from Texas, the one that issued this restraining order, there are actually, in total, at least 27 other states. There are private employers, religious organizations, as well as other groups throughout the entire country who have similarly filed lawsuits against the new vaccine mandate as well. And these lawsuits, they really are spread out across the entire country. They encompass 5 different courts of appeals, including the 8th Circuit, the 11th Circuit, the 6th Circuit, the 5th Circuit, and also the Republican National Committee. They challenged the vaccine mandate in the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. And so literally, it goes across the entire country. So what does that exactly mean? Well, to summarize, besides this Texas case, you have cases across the entire country that are likewise challenging the vaccine mandate. And the different lawsuits, they are all using different legal arguments to make their case. For instance, some lawsuits are saying that it's a violation of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Some are saying that it's a violation of the First Amendment. Some are saying that it's beyond the scope of what OSHA is authorized to do, etc. There are many different arguments. And so, with many different cases being brought forth, what will happen is a consolidation. That's because in our judicial system here in America, when you have multiple petitions that are filed in at least 2 different courts, the cases are consolidated into one of those courts through basically a lottery system. It's actually quite literally a ping pong ball lottery like the ones you see over on TV. And this lottery, it actually took place just yesterday. And in terms of the winner, well, can you please give me a drum roll? Well, the consolidated cases will be heard by the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals over in Ohio. And that particular court, it's considered by many of the plaintiffs in these cases to be a lucky draw, given the fact that it is conservative leaning. In fact, the 6th Circuit, it has twice as many judges that were appointed by Republicans.
Yeah, so there's a really good chance that when this case is heard in Ohio, that the vaccine mandates will be no more. Once again, this is what happens when you try to overplay your hand, because as obviously as a government, you can get the president, even the president of the United States, he can put out executive orders for anything that he wants to, as long as it does not ruffle the feathers of the Constitution. The minute it does that, that's when you're going to get a challenge. That's the reason why any executive orders that are put out by the president is not necessarily the law of the land, because if it doesn't fit within the Constitution, it can be challenged. That's why people. That's the reason why people put out lawsuits. and it's the right to do that. If it doesn't follow within the law, then you do have the right to challenge it. So I have a good feeling that this vaccine mandate enforcement, which is really this is the type of tactic that Nazi Germany will put out, or any communist country will put out when they want specific things done their way, whether it benefits the people or not. It will be struck down, and this mandate will not stand.
Republican presidents than those that were appointed by Democrat presidents. In fact, here's how one legal commentator over on CNN, here's how he described the particular draw. The Sixth Circuit is a favorable draw for mandate challengers, one of the best they could have hoped for. The court has many Trump-appointed judges skeptical of broad assertions of agency authority, and this is their chance to cement that reputation. However, it's not necessarily the case that the judges who will actually be assigned to this particular case will themselves be conservatives. That's because what still needs to happen is that a 3-judge panel must still be formed in order to hear the case. And who those 3 particular judges will be has not yet been determined. And so, even though the Sixth Circuit overall leans conservative, it is still yet to be determined whether the 3 judges who will be assigned to this particular case will themselves be conservative. Because given the fact that these 3-judge panels are actually assigned at random, it could still be the case that just based on chance, the judges might actually lean liberal. Only time will tell. However, regardless of which judges will ultimately be assigned to this case, until the lawsuits are fully resolved, as we mentioned earlier, OSHA, under court order, will not enforce or implement the vaccine mandate. And then furthermore, given the nature of this case, the large nature of this case, as well as the national implications.
Pretty cool. Yeah, so until the lawsuit is actually resolved, OSHA cannot enforce the vaccine mandates. And I know that has to be a relief for a lot of businesses who didn't plan on implementing the vaccine mandates in the first place. Now, as far as local government, not too sure about that. I would think that federal would trump local, but for the most part, the federal government cannot force their hands on private businesses. That's a good thing.
Regardless of what will ultimately happen at the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, this case has a 99.9% chance of getting appealed once again to the U.S. Supreme Court. And so very likely within a few months, it'll be the U.S. Supreme Court which will ultimately decide whether this vaccine mandate is constitutional or not. If you'd like to read more about this lottery or about this permanent injunction that OSHA was just slapped with, I'll throw all that into the description box below this video for you to check out. And all I ask in return is that you take a quick moment to smack.
So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you guys. Once again, I think this is a big win for businesses who want to give their employees the option of getting the vaccine, but not the enforcement of doing so, because no one should ever force you into doing something that you do not want to do. Okay, it's really nobody's business on whether or not you have COVID or not. Honestly, it's really nobody's business. All right, that's a personal issue, and it should be taken care of personally. Okay, so you guys know how I feel about that. Now, as me personally, as a business, I mean, I would never even go along with the vaccine mandates. I just wouldn't do it. So, because I believe in freedom, and I believe in people choosing to make the choice of whether they want to get the vaccine or not. So, with that being said, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think of the matter. Smash the like button. Leave a comment in the comment section after you subscribe to my channel. Smash the like button. Share the video. And subscribe to my channel so you'll be able to get more content, exclusive content like this on the double. And with that being said, this is The Conservative signing out. Have a blessed day.